Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Music of the Week. Now don't let your eyes fool you, I've not cut my hair. I hope to get that done soon. I've put it in a ponytail. It keeps my hair in my eyes, and I think it looks okay, even if I do look a bit like a grotty porn producer. It's a bit weird. But we have 6 albums to go through for this one, so let's go through them. We begin with Blackbriar and their third album, A Thousand Little Deaths. This is a band I've covered a few times before. In fact, this is their third album, and I think my third album by them. I think they might be the only band in this video that I've covered the entire career of so far. I'm giving this one a B+. I do quite like it. It does suffer from the same issue that I have with Dutch symphonic metal bands, which is most of them sound quite similar, especially if they're A, female fronted, and B, from the Netherlands. I don't know what it is for that place with symphonic metal. But I think it's just the refusal to go in when it really should. I mean, it's light and breezy in terms of the instrumentation, and the instrumentation itself is quite good. It's got more of a heavy focus than previous albums. Well, a heavier string focus as right here. But yeah, we also melds and sounds nice. But as always with symphonic metal in general, it does have a tendency to sacrifice chunk in favour of melody, and I don't know, man. I need a bit more chunk in my symphonic metal, as I am a chunky boy myself. But production, I did also enjoy. Juice Vandenbroek, I'm definitely not saying any of that correctly. He's been their producer, I think, since their debut album, and, well, I think it's a he. But it does a really good job, really good mix and really good polish to make the sound really go hard. I guess, for lack of a better term, it just makes it try to sound as good as it does. The pacing is also quite good. While it does find its groove early, it doesn't vary much of what it does. It's got a good style and good flow, but again, the same problem with a lot of the style, it doesn't feel the need to variate on itself, which has always kind of frustrated me a bit. However, I did quite like the performances. The band is still great, and I will shout out keyboardist Ruben Wijga, W-I-J-G-A, who does really good stuff in terms of the effects that he provides on the keyboard work. But the vocalist Zora Koch, which is still a very unfortunate name, I'm sorry, it is. She does a great job too, and I also quite like the lyrics. There's a really good main theme of love and loss, but I like the tinges of the dark fairy tale storytelling that the band have done since their debut. And honestly, I still want a full-on, fairy tale, dark, twisted concept from them. I feel like it's something that they could do, and maybe spice up by making things a bit more impacty on their next album. But as it is, Blackbriar are steadily improving, and I think it is a genre thing, and again, I think it's a me thing because of, the whole backtracking stuff, which I keep talking about, I know, but still. Yeah, Blackbriar are still someone worth checking out, a band worth checking out, so I still recommend you give this a go. Next is Deftones with their 10th album, Private Music, which sounds a bit like an official title. It's Deftones, and that is both a good and sort of expected thing, as you'll find out quite soon. I'm giving this one an A, though, because it's got great instrumentation. It's got more of a shoegaze vibe than the previous stuff. This is usually an alt metal band for the people who don't know, and they've always had this, sort of almost proggy undertone, but it focuses more on shoegaze, and it's got this crystal clear guitar work that I fucking love. And I will shout out the guitarist too. I think I highlighted in terms of performance, Stephen Carpenter. Bloody lovely stuff, and the band are great as well. Chino Moreno is still a great vocalist, still fantastic chemistry from everyone involved too. Also quite like the production. This is the first album that Nick Raskulinecz, I again never know if I'm saying that correctly, but Nick Rascal as I call him, his first album with them since Koino Yokon in 2012, and he does a really good job of making the album sound as great as it does, and I think he is the reason why the guitar sounds as good as it does. Lyrics I'm not as big a fan of. They are good, but the band have always sort of been unobvious and weirdly abstract with that sort of thing, and I couldn't find anything about a theme, but I think the main one might be just trying to seek enlightenment, and it's just nice to have a theme that kind of sounds happy, because from the couple of songs Wikipedia allowed me to look up, some of them were, both of them have sort of a religious or spiritual theme, which I don't mind, and I do kind of wish there was anything else I could have found. And also I quite like the pacing. It's weird, and I like how cohesive it stays, but it does blur and feel a bit, for lack of a better term, perfunctory after a while. It's almost like it's a bit too easy for them, and I sort of hate them for it, but like I sort of alluded to at the start, it is a Deftones album, and also it's a Deftones album. I feel like it doesn't have the grit of Gore. Then again, Gore was my first Deftones album, and I don't think it has the weird risk factor that Ohms had, but you know, it's a Deftones album. Deftones are a good band. I think even the most vehement haters of Deftones could admit that they are a good band. And at the end of the day, I'm perfectly happy with that. With the band existing, not with people hating. God, just wanted to clarify. Next up, we have a band you would think I would have heard of earlier, because they're a band from England, specifically Leeds, Yorkshire, named Dinosaur Pileup, and their new album is titled I Felt Better, which I'm also giving an A. I quite like the main theme of the album especially. It's titled that because it's got really good writing and cheeky humour. I like the focus on tackling the weird world and trying to come out in a sort of more positive and slightly hardened way, but the reason it's called that is because this is the band's first album in 6 years, which is probably why I didn't get around to them sooner. Because I think they maybe wanted to tour off their previous album in 2020, because the last one came out in 2019, so they probably wanted to tour off in 2020, right? Unfortunately, around the time COVID hit was when the band's lead singer, Matt Bigland, found out that he had what was misdiagnosed as Crohn's disease, but turned out to be, the much lighter ulcerative colitis. And him having to deal with that through a half decade of complete bollocks from the country he lives in. These are some of the most justifiably pissed off lyrics I've heard probably all year, which is why it's a great theme. Instrumentation I also quite liked. Fucking hell, I love the instrumentation. It's got these sort of nice punk and grunge elements. This is an alt rock band with those punk and grunge elements, and it's a style mix I quite enjoy. You know, as people know, I like the band Low Lives, even though they've only put out one album. God, is it weird that I want to collab between Low Lives and Dinosaur Pileup now? They have sounds that would mix so well together. I would like to hear that. But yeah, great instrumentation. Guitar work is really good. Matt Bigland is a fantastic frontman too. A lot of personality and to his delivery, and a lot of impact to it as well. And he's got this really good, sort of scratchy, nasally voice that balances a good amount without sounding overbearing. It's a very difficult thing to pull off without sounding annoying, and, even though he is pissed off for the most part because of the album's themes, it's understandable, and he doesn't sound like he's sacrificing any actual passion just to sound angry. It's good. I also do like the pacing has got a good style mix and energy and a really good main formula. It does feel like it can blur a bit at times. I also feel like the home stretch is a bit weak at certain points, but still got some really good stuff there. And I quite like the production. I do feel like it can maybe overdo it a little bit. It was produced by Mike Horner, who I think I've covered before. I'm not entirely sure there. But there's a really good mix of the sound, and there's some really nice texturing things as well. I like how it highlights the guitar work, but the bass and drum work is also really good. By the way, there's only 3 people in this band. Guitarist and vocalist Matt Bigland, and there's a bassist and a drummer as well, whose names I do not remember. But I like all of them, I like the band, and for my first Dinosaur Pileup album, I think this was a really good jumping on point for me. And if this is your first one, or if it's going to be your first one, give it a spin. Might be a good jumping on point for you as well. Next we have Hot Mulligan and their new album, The Sound a Body Makes When It's Still. Now, the album title is a bit heavy, and I'll explain why after I give this album its grade, which is an A+. So, I like it when an album is inspired by loss, and I've covered 2 albums this year alone that, while not directly inspired by loss, did have losses surrounding them. Those being the Nell Smith and Trumpet Kings albums, and this one is inspired not by the loss of a band member, but by the loss of the lead singer Nate Sanville's grandmother, who he considered to basically be his mom because of the close and loving relationship that they had. And I didn't know this when I covered their last album, the incredible Why Would I Watch, and I think this album might be better than that one, personally. I didn't know during Why Would I Watch that the grandmother was suffering from dementia. She was in her 90s. She lived to be, she was 97 at that point, so I think she was maybe 99 around the time when she sadly passed, which inspired a lot of the writing on this album, and holy hell, let's get this out of the way, right? Hot Mulligan songs have really silly titles. My favourite song on this album is titled Monica Lewinsky. But if you ignore the title and just read the lyrics, it is fucking heartbreaking, and it's almost like a defense mechanism album, because a lot of the lyrics talk about how Nate was dealing with that, along with dealing with other states of the world and how shit that's all been going as well. That's included. It's not just a personal album, but it is influenced by the personal things that happened to Nate. And his vocals, especially, like the entire band is great. I feel like I should point that out, but like Nathan stretches his fucking voice out and puts so much emotion into everything he does on this. And yeah, fucking love the lyrics as well. They do tackle the main theme of grief and loss, inspired by the passing of Nathan's grandmother. But it also has this sort of theme of like trying not to fall back into the bad habits that Nate used to have, and the ones that he just broken out of by the time that Why Would I Watch rolled around. So to not fall and slip back into that, and to write a theme surrounding that feeling is really good. I've talked a lot about lyrics, but the lyrics on this album are fucking incredible. Yeah, performance is great too. I love the instrumentation. It's probably the most heavy album. This is a sort of emo leaning bands with some like slight mathcore and hardcore and pop punk elements. You know, sort of a bit tiny moving party, but with a more, I guess, scratchy vocalist, for lack of a better term. But there's these brilliant melodies and there's subtle depth to them. I think this might be the most cleverly written album by Hot Mulligan in terms of like songs, not just in terms of lyrics, but like in terms of composition. It's really good stuff there. The pacing is fantastic. It sticks to its main narrative really, really fantastically, with a great song flow and just this undercurrent of hope to match its weird and frenetic energy at times. For an album, this album has 16 songs and it's 42 minutes 46 seconds long, and it manages to make all the songs work. There is a fair few short songs that lead into big ones afterwards, but I feel like a lot of those are quite justified, and they work in trying to build up a story because a lot of the album does feel like a narrative. And the production is also fantastic as well, handled by Brett Romner, who I believe has produced for this band before. Just allows so much of it to breathe. It's such an organic feeling album. It's so neat and tidy, but at the same time messy in a good way. And it's got this raw, authentic feel to the mix. I cannot say enough good about this album. It's genuinely it's possibly a top 10 contender. At the very least, the top 20. And it's further proof that Hot Mulligan should be listened to more. This genuinely might be their best album, because it got to me in so many ways. As someone who has lost grandparents and great grandparents, to be able to like read the lyrics, which you should do if you listen to this album, by the way, especially if you've gone through a loss, this album might give you a bit of comfort, and it might help you feel a bit better, because it helped me feel a bit better. So yeah, I recommend listening to it for that alone, if you need to. Next up, we have a band who I was familiar with when I was younger. I tried to get into them, but sort of couldn't. That band being Pendulum with their new album Inertia. And I think part of the reason I haven't covered them before is because I couldn't get into them when I was a teenager. And I was still a teenager when their last album dropped, because this is their first album in 15 years. I was 18 when the last one came out. Or at least around that time, it was 2010, so yeah, I would have been about 18. Anyway, I'm giving this one a C. I will admit, right off the bat, I quite like the production. It's got this really nice, well put together feel. It was handled by the band's frontman Rob Swire alongside someone named Owen Charles, who adds that Triple Check was not a band member. I really thought he was with a name like that for some reason, but no, not a band member. It just has this good sound mix that helps you make sense of the genre. This is an electronic band slash drum and bassy sort of band from Australia, and people know I usually like Max from Australia. People know that. I do, as a rule. And, you know, the production actually helps to make sense of all the weird stuff going on. And I like the performances as well. It is mostly the guest spots that help. There's a fair few of them. Wargasm, Bullet for My Valentine, Joey Valentine Bray, and AWOL Nation, who appear on the best song on the album, Guiding Lights. I'm not kidding, that is the best song on the album. Also, like the previous album, like Hot Mulligan's album, this album also has 16 songs. And is 12 minutes longer, and it's not as good. By which I mean the pacing is not as good. I think it's fine, and I think it's also because I'm not a drum and bass or even much of an electronic music fan in general, and there is some experimentation, which can work if you have a good core formula. But the problem is, this does that annoying drum and bass thing of giving you a beat, then giving you a few words worked in, and then move on to the next song. And some of the songs are way too long to justify that. Fuck, the song with Joey Valentine Bray would be my favourite song if it didn't feel like such a waste of time. Because a lot of the songs just feel like non-ideas to me, but again, they're not terrible, and they do have this weird experimentation that prevents them from being any worse, I guess. Also, the lyrics fucking suck. Admittedly, it's not offensively bad, And there's supposed to be like introspective themes, which I think is related to the album's title in some way, even though, to my knowledge, inertia makes people throw up. I'm thinking of Vertigo, a different thing, but the wording is just really repetitive, and lyrically it feels almost non-existent. It's also nonsensical because there's a song on here called it's called "Save the Cat" or something, and it was inspired by two bad breakups for Rob Swire back to back. So yeah, it's the opposite thing of what Hot Mulligan are doing with their silly song titles, but it fueled by this really good narrative storytelling inspired by real life things. Like the way Pendulum are doing it is just fucking dumb. I do actually quite enjoy the instrumentation though in this one, to be honest. There's a good energy and I like the riffs, and there's these really pulsing intense drum beats, and I love the synth work especially too. I do wish that the guitar was worked in a bit better than it is. Also, I just realised I've been doing this a lot with my hands. I do wish that the guitar was worked in a bit better and was actually more present, but the main thing it focuses on, it does that right well, really well. I do also want to add that while I tried to get into these guys during their heyday, I couldn't fully, and it's not a fault of the band. I think it's just the genre. I didn't like the genre then. I don't especially like it now. And, yeah, as people know, I love my Australian ex, but this album, while it does have its flaws, I can't say that it doesn't take risks and tries to make them pay off. I just don't think they do as well as the band thinks they do, and also this is not a smart place for me to start getting into this band, or at least not a smart first album for me to listen to by them, so I will take the loss on that one. And finally, we have 3 Days Grace and their new album, Alien Nation. This is the band's 8th album? Am I looking at it right? I am. And people know 3 Days Grace. I know 3 Days Grace because I was an edgy teenager that also liked WWE games. And with this one to be, first of all, let's get the main thing out of the way. I am so fucking happy Adam's back. More importantly, I'm so happy that Adam and Matt are sharing vocal duties, because I was so scared that it was just going to be Adam's back, Matt's gone. And I know that there are diehard 3 Days Grace fans that would have preferred that because they don't like Matt so much. I don't mind Matt. I think Matt's a good singer. I think Adam is better, but having... I'm going to be honest, I do think Adam is better, but having Adam and Matt on the same team and doing really good vocals together, and actually sharing a lot of the songs and mixing it up, yeah, really good stuff. Obviously, the rest of the band are great too. Barry Stock is still a good guitarist, Brad Walls is a good bassist, Neil Sanderson is still a really good drummer to listen to, but it is Matt and Adam that carry a lot of this, and the way they combine for the most part is just really, really cool. It's not the most innovative thing, but it's a lot of fun to listen to in a weird way. I do also quite like the instrumentation. It's really good post-grungy, hard rock-leaning riffs, and I like the guitar work, especially. Barry Stock fucking nails it on that front. And there's really good drumming. There always has been for 3 Days Grace, and I feel like it's an element of this sound that not a lot of people bring up, but they have really good drumming. Lyrics, not as big on. I do like the main theme, which is the theme of feeling alienated, and there is the typical 3 Days Grace topics like addiction and lost love and feeling like an outsider and isolation, but also the band have always written lyrics kind of basically anyway, and it's a thing that's always worked for them. It's not something that they exactly need to mix up. It's sort of a similar thing with Bullet for My Valentine. Their writing, in terms of lyricism, has never been the best thing, but, it's more how they make it sound, I guess, and that's sort of what 3 Days Grace do here, I guess. Also, wasn't super keen on the production. It was handled by Howard Benson and Zach Savini. Weirdly, my second Zach Savini album, I think my second in as many weeks, because, I think last week I covered the new Good Shoal album. That was produced by Zach as well, along with 4 other fucking people. And as much as I like Howard Benson, I do think he's slightly better than Zach, but I don't think their styles match together all that much, and I say this in my written review. For the love of God, 3 Days Grace, if you're watching this, and I know you're not, please work with Don Gilmore again. He produced your best album, Transit of Venus. Please work with Don Gilmore again. He's fucking brilliant. Just go work with him. I don't mind Howard, and Zach I'm not too familiar with, but both the albums I've heard him do in my life, which are both albums that came out this year, are fine. But yeah, I would just work with Don. He's good. I do also sort of enjoy the pacing. It doesn't have much variety, but it is the classic 3 Days Grace formula, and it is a little bit predictable and a little bit basic, but it does still have its good moments. It's got some pretty heavy moments. In fact, some of the most traditionally grunge-heavy stuff that I think 3 Days Grace have done in fucking ages, at least since, I would say, 1X. It's got that sort of vibe. And yeah, it's just, again, it's nice to have Adam back. It's nice to have him and Matt getting on well and doing songs together. So, I enjoy it. Next is favourite song and favourite cover. Favourite song, I would say, goes to Monica Lewinsky because goddamn that song title, but like also I've gone over why I liked it earlier. The fucking lyrics hit me hard. The performance is really good from Nate Sanville. Just fantastic stuff all around on that. Favourite cover does almost go to it, but I'm leaning more towards Dinosaur Apocalypse. I felt better. I just like that it looks a bit like a weird poster, and also I'm looking at the weird creature thing right now, and it's confusing, but I can't explain why I like it. I think I like it because it looks so weird. And as for next week's listening list, we have The Beths with Straight Line Was a Lie, End It with Wrong Side of Heaven, The Hives with The Hives Forever, Forever the Hives, Low Heaven with Ritual Decay, Pink Shift with Earthkeeper, and Woe Is Me with Daybreak. That'll be it for me though. I'll see you all, well, if you only watch these, I'll see you all next week. But if you watch more than just these, I'll see you all tomorrow for the return show of PPW vs AVW After Over the Top. Go with that pay-per-view, it was fun, the main rumble was good, that match between Ray and Harris was good, that match between Diego and Kenny was really good, mostly really good shit. And I'll see you all for that, and also on Saturday and possibly Sunday, because I want to do more Let's Play streaming for more Yakuza Like a Dragon. So I'll see you all for something eventually over the weekend, maybe. As always, hang on, I'm gonna do this right. As always, thank you for watching, you're awesome. Bye bye.